I think I had news.
News?
I think I did.
In the past?
Yeah.
Is it gone?
I currently turn up empty-handed. But it was one of those ones again where I haven't thought of a bit to start us off with. And in the few seconds where we were counting down to sync up, I was like, what have I got? What have I got? What have I got? Wait, there's something. What is it, you bitch? What are you holding out on? What are you hiding from yourself, you stupid bitch? I had something. I don't think it had to do with ice cream, but I'm thinking about ice cream now for some reason.
Maybe this is a mood killer, but we could talk about Jeffrey Jones.
Oh my god, what is Jeffrey Jones up to? Well,
he's not in Beetlejuice, I could tell you that.
Is he not?
Oh, yeah.
He's not, but his character is, like, so fucking important to the plot and so significant. It appears throughout it.
Oh
I genuinely fucking love how they avoided... So, for anyone who's unaware, Jeffrey Jones played the dad in the first Beetlejuice, and he's not in the second Beetlejuice because he might have done some messaging of some kids and might have gotten in some trouble for it.
I think it was, like, indecent material on the computer, like, that got
it.
him.
Might have been. It was something to do with him being a bit of a...
But either way,
I wouldn't have him around me kids sort of crime.
The thing that did him in was that he failed to register as a sex offender after having been convicted, and it was several years past, but it brought it back up, and they're like, oh, right, this dude's a kitty fiddler.
Right.
Yeah. So
well, there we are.
They couldn't bring him back, but his character is one of the most prominent on-screen characters of this film, and they don't recast someone else who's got a face look-alike. They fucking do a beautiful job of conceivably having his character back in the film for, like, large swaths of time. I don't know how much I want to say about how they do it.
Yeah, because I plan to see the film, but you've got me so curious.
It's a treat what they do with that.
It's genuinely creative.
And one of those situations where, like, when they announce the plot, this is not really spoiling anything, the plot of the movie is he's dead, and everybody is coming back to the house to have a memorial for it.
Yeah,
right.
Which seems like such an easy write-off to not have to involve him.
But the problem is it's Beetlejuice. It's about dead people still being in the film.
It hadn't occurred to me until I sat down to watch it. And then I continued watching. I was like, wow, this kid, he's in a lot of this.
Look, there are two different things they do in this film to write him out and then to have him stick around. And I am genuinely like, oh yeah, no, this was a much better idea than just, like, having him die off screen. This is fucking hilarious, because every time I look at him, I'm like, oh, I feel like someone on that creative team, like, had a little, almost a vicious streak and was like, oh, I know what I'm gonna do about the fact that my film has to fucking deal with this man and the bullshit he did.
I mean, look, if I were Tim Burton, and I had made this film that is in many ways viewed as one of the most significant parts of my career, and there are people out there who are going to have to be like, oh yeah, but Jeffrey Jones. Like, I'd be pissed.
Oh, it's infuriating. Like, it's not the same thing, but, like, I've had wrestling matches with, you know, people who are outed as you know, abusers and whatnot. Like, my first ever match I would call a proper one was in New York, Polyam Cult Party 3, facing one of my dear friends, our mutual acquaintance, Kimberly Spirit, and the person I tagged with, the Great Bambina, was not only an abuser, but Darvoed me when the allegations weren't mine, and that whole situation was fucking traumatic. I am proud of that match, but I can't really show it off, and I get the fucking anger, and how someone would want to, like, hit back in some way.
It's a perfect mix of ha ha ha, this is amusing, but also probably a little bit vindicating for someone who's like, my triumphant return has to contend with this, so I'm gonna at least have fun with it. Having seen the film, the way they deal with not bringing back Jeffrey Jones is indicative of, like, what I think this film does best, which is not taking the easy road when it comes to dealing with the legacy of what was before and making something new. Like, they do a good job of not taking the fucking easy roads. They put the effort in.
There's a lot in this movie that doesn't feel necessary. from like a plot perspective. It's only an hour and 44 minutes, and truth be told, you could do this movie in 45, but then you would have like 15 minutes of Beetlejuice, and that's too much Beetlejuice for a Beetlejuice movie. It just is.
I'll tell you what's got me really curious. In the current media landscape, I'm expecting CG. I'm expecting what they did with, say, Alien Romulus, which I haven't talked about that on this podcast, but that sure is a final act. Statey a fucking monster, mate. But that's what we expect now. Like, here's Ian Holmes' computer-generated ghost creeping you out.
Jane put it really well after we saw it together when she said something to the effect of, the practical effects work in terms of like characters and set design in this feels like what they wanted to do in Beetlejuice but just didn't have the fucking budget for. Like, it feels like someone had some great character concept sketches back in the day that now they were like, oh, someone will actually give me the money to do all of this shit because it's a proven success one.
It's also 30 years of technical advancement, you know, and while there has been less of that in practical, it's still happened.
Yeah.
Wow.
Couldn't agree more. Like, they are smart about what they do practical, and I like the fact that when they're doing stuff that is not practical, they lean into not trying to shy away from some of the weird edges of the original's design. Like, I'm glad that the sandworms are still stop motion, for example.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I think that's a fucking great choice.
Oh, that makes me happy to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just one more Jeffrey Jones note, because he does appear in the film. They use a production still of him from the first film, a promotional still, on his gravestone. It's the only place he's... It's perfect. It's perfect. I just... The movie itself it's fine. It's fine. Like, it's the most I could have possibly hoped for out of a Beetlejuice sequel. It did not offend me in any meaningful way, which is great.
It's still got a couple of places here and there where it's like, Tim Burton, you do make your films very, very white, and it is notable where the non-white people show up in your films.
Yep.
Like, you could maybe make some points about that.
Yep, you could.
But generally speaking, my takeaway was, this is the most creative effort it's felt like a Tim Burton thing's had involved in it in a while.
And yet, there's still a fucking corpse bride in it for no really good reason.
I mean, because of course there is. You can't not. My only other very quick takeaway, Willem Dafoe is in it.
Oh,
and
he's so good.
I'm very glad that they gave Willem Dafoe a role that was canonically person who is overplaying and like bigging up and overacting is canonically what the character needs to be doing. Yep. The character is a canonical overactor.
That's his character background.
Yes, and like it just gives him rein to just push it a little further in ways that are great for him.
He doesn't chew on scenery so much as like gnaw on it very rapidly.
He gnaws on the scenery, stops to discuss whether he should have gnawed on it quite so hard, and then gnaws even harder.
It's like watching a rabbit eat. You know? Yeah.
I love that.
It was nice to see a legacy sequel that didn't just feel like it was trying to retread the first film.
Yeah.
Even if it maybe had a couple too many plots, and some of those plots kind of didn't really exist for much.
We definitely need that, because we have so many of these things just following the beats. Like Romulus, there was a lot about it I did like until the final act, but so much of it was a clear, like, remember Alien?
Your Star Wars 7, we're retreading the hits a little.
The line, get away from her, you bitch, is in it. Which, you know what? I didn't mind the line, because, you know, Ian Holm is in it playing a different model version of Ash. So when he says, I can't lie to you about your chances, but you have my sympathies, I was like, I will accept that. Basically the same android. When a completely different character, unrelated to Ellen Ripley, says, get away from her, you bitch, everyone in the cinema at the time, fuck it, we all groaned. It's not on. But I'm glad Beetlejuice sounds like they actually, like, didn't just play the hits, as you say.
I had a decently fun time, and I respected the ambition and some of the not the easy choices they made.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's got some good gags. It's plotted in a creative way that it isn't, like startling, but clever. They are effective at carrying across the things that they want to carry across in it, and yeah, it's funny. One other disappointment. I think I've mentioned in the past how excited I was to see if they'd go Hawaiian.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the only real reference to Hawaiian and going it is also tied up in an Asian American stereotype. So,
yeah,
not perfect.
What this talk is making me miss?
What?
Glenn Shaddix. Because he died as well. Well, I say he died as well as if Jeffrey Jones died. Just his career did. But the Otho from the first one.
Yes.
Also, the mayor from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, for a while, like, early Jimquisition, I looked exactly like Otho. Because I think Otho at one point in Beetlejuice has like a black shirt jacket with a red tie.
Yes, he
and
does.
The way my hair was at the time, quite receding, and I sort of had it like slicked back like somewhat. I looked exactly like Otho, and I did not mind that. I was made up with that.
And they're right. They recognize that Otho not being there is an absence, that there is a vacuum created by there not being an Otho. And they make some attempt to replace Otho. Not replace, but to have someone else there that fills that role. And they don't work. They are an unfortunate aspect of the film that are there, which is the script demanded for some reason that character and relationship be there, but they're not good and they're not a replacement for Otho.
Right.
So, but that's like the worst part of the movie is the character.
Okay, well.
So welcome to Podquisition.
Yeah, I
where
don't.
we talk about Beetlejuice.
Yeah, I still don't have news.
Almost said it again. No, we talk about Beetlejuice. We don't talk about any other.
We don't say it a third
Beetlejuice.
We don't say the third one. No. We don't feed him after midnight or get him wet. You know what? Just before we start, I don't have news, but I might as well just get the plug out because that match I've got is fucking like the most important one. So I will just say up front, if you can get to Leeds on September 20th, please do so, because the next True Grit match I have is no disqualifications, it's hardcore, no rules, just right. It's my thing against my best friend Priscilla, Queen of the Ring. My legit best friend, she spent the last 2 Christmases with me, and I'm going to vivisect her. And it's going to be a very therapeutic thing. And I guarantee you, with the plans I've got, there will not have been a match like it. Certainly not in Britain. And I really am confident enough to say that. There will not have been a match like this. So yes, a bit of, self-service out the way. Oh, I tell you what. Sorry.
What?
I did remember something fun. Content warning, folks, for some transphobia. Basically, Concord and its shutdown has sent the Nazis into overdrive.
Oh, God, yeah, it has.
I've been getting emails, and they rarely directly email me, but I've gotten 2 in, last night, 1 this morning. One, telling me to offer myself, all of that. That was all in the subject. In the body was just, Chuds won, Concord lost. And I'm like, why are you sending that to me? I haven't checked the Metacritic, but I probably gave Concord the lowest score. I'm not running in this race. What these outrage tourists are doing now, it's like you're sitting in the stands at a racetrack, and one person is running up and down it, yelling at the audience, I'm beating you, I'm beating you. Making that weird whispery crowd noise that people do. Like that. And everyone else is just looking blankly. I've not got a horse in this race. But people seem to think that Concord failing is a big own on me. And I hate Concord. I don't celebrate its demise. You know, like we said last week, that's 8 years of people's lives gone. That is not nice. But the thing that really got me was someone doing the whole, oh, you'll never be a woman, all of that shit. Which, again, non-binary. I know. But among all that, all the you'll never have this, you'll never do that, was a new one that I've never heard before. You will never enjoy sex like a loving man and woman. Which, thank God for that, because I was in a het marriage, and for all a cis marriage, for all intents and purposes, cis het. You know, trying and failing to be a husband. I've done the married sex. I've done the dutiful 7-minute pumping and the feeling of disappointment afterwards. I much prefer now, where 2 hours is the minimum, and I'm getting everything done and done out. Like, I'm perfectly happy with that. You will never have sex. The average time that cishet people have sex statistically is 7 minutes. Which, if you're having a great time in those 7 minutes, more power to you. But I like having to take the night off.
The thing that just terrifies me is that I know that includes foreplay.
Oh, yeah, I do believe it does, actually. Like, I believe the whole thing is a 7-minute session. The whole time, do it, like, from beginning to end.
Everybody enjoy yourself the way you enjoy. Like, Steph says 2 hours, and that sounds awful. That sounds exhausting. That is... Oh my God, I couldn't possibly at this point in my life spend 2 hours doing that. I've got other stuff to do. But, that, you know, a 30-minute, you know, whatever, take some time, relax, enjoy each other's company. Sure, why not? You know, everybody's different. I mean, it's no judgment on your 7 minutes if you're having a good time.
No,
if
not
you're
at all.
enjoying your 7 minutes, that's great. But, you know,
I'm just saying...
come on.
I have had, you know, I've never been cishet, but I didn't know it at the time. So, but for all intents and purposes, I've had the cishet sex. Yeah. And there are some things I do now, like, I'm not going to get into too much detail, there are some things I do now that are mechanically not dissimilar.
Sure.
Like, for that person emailing me saying, you'll never have a uterus, first of all, everyone I know who has one says it's like more trouble than it's worth.
Sounds awful.
I would genuinely hate it. And I like the equipment I have. Like, I really, you know, I'm not genital focused like TERFs are.
Sure.
But I have done that, and there are some other things I do different, but there are some things I don't. And for the longest time while married, I did not get what the big deal with sex was. I was like, people treat this like the most important thing in the world. And it's fine, but I think I get more out of knocking one out. And then I started having queer sex, and I've not looked back. Well, unless it's over my shoulder. Yeah, it was just a brand new one, so I've got to give them that. I have never heard you will never enjoy sex like a man and a woman, which it's not a brag. Yeah, it's really not. There are so many ways you can enjoy sex, and the ones I found are way better than the ones that I had when I was trying that.
You know, you tried it. It wasn't for you. They are correct. You will never enjoy it because it's, you know,
I find it unenjoyable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of things that are best enjoyed taking more than 7 minutes to do them, let's talk about some video games. The thing we supposedly do here on Podquisition. I'm doing my best to wrangle us back in.
Yes.
Who's played a video game this week?
Stop me before I get to the bit where they were banging on about,
who's played a video game?
When they dig up your bones.
One of you, I've played a video game. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to force us there. I played a game this week called I Am Your Beast.
Okay.
Sorry, taking a second to catch my breath after the swerve there. I played a game this week called I Am Your Beast.
Is it about Mr. Beast?
It's not about Mr. Beast.
Oh, good, I'm listening then.
I was all prepared for it to be a business strategy simulator where you have to exploit all of your friends and eventually it worked to exploit your entire town.
No, This is a game by Xavier Nelson,
Oh!
the person behind recently Clickholding.
Yeah, very prolific. Also did the vampire Max Payne.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So this is not one of the silly, goofy games that he sometimes does. This is mechanically fascinating game that I am having fun with despite completely fucking sucking at it, and I can't wait to watch people better than me play it. So, the best way I can describe I Am Your Beast is, what if Super Hot but without the time slowing down thing, you just had to fucking do it in real time.
Oh dear God.
It is that mixed in with a little bit of Mirror's Edge. But it is
Oh.
deliberately balanced to be like, it's balanced to be in your favour. You are overpowered and there is a degree of
Right.
lock-on to like make you feel powerful while doing it. The gist of the plot is that you're some kind of like, you're working for some kind of like government agency that's like it's sent out on tactical missions or whatever, and you see some people that you'd been working with previously just fucking shoot a dog in the head for no fucking reason. And you go, that's fucked up. I'm feeling pissed off. I'm gonna go murder all of these Black Ops types in the wood just because they killed a dog.
Just
and
go
I'm pissed
John Wick
off.
on them.
Valid. Yeah.
Yeah, just go a
I
little
like
fucking
that.
John Wick. So you're just in the dark, in the woods, you're dropped into a level, and every level is go kill all the fuckers and then get to the exit. And it is a game of trying to high score chase, get your time down, be more efficient at doing it. Chasing against yourself in terms of like, oh, what's a better route for like what route to take them out, what method to do so. You run up to people, you can either punch them, maybe you find a melee weapon somewhere, you can sort of stab them, maybe you find a gun, it's got 2 or 3 bullets, you shoot a couple of them. Much like Super Hot, you then throw the empty gun at someone to knock them over. It's all that sort of Super Hot style. No one is taking more than a couple of hits to kill, and you use a thing for a couple of seconds, it stops being useful, you throw it at them, you keep going. Mixed in with some, like, light parkour running along. Sometimes there'll be, like, telephone wires between trees, and you're just fucking running along them like Naruto, ninja running along them, to, like, leap out from the sky and punch someone in the head from the sky. It's all just feel very powerful and competent, and try and string together running around doing a bunch of murder and running away,
Yeah.
and not stopping to think about it too much.
You've got me really in, because from the concept you gave, I never got on with Mirror's Edge much, and I loved Super Hot, but the idea of doing that in real time, it horrifies my brain, but you're making it sound very playable.
Yeah, you understand why those are the comparison points I'm making, despite it sounding like that would be terrible.
Yeah.
It's Mirror's Edge in that sort of, like, encouraging you to just, like, really get that flow of travelling through the level, never really stopping, just keep going. Without the things that are going to break that parkouring flow. It's Super Hot without the time slowdown mechanic, but deliberately, like, a bit more forgiving. Because, like, Super Hot, you'd get shot once, you'd be fucking dead. This, instead, like, levels are gonna have, like, med packs and healing plants pretty liberally, like, spread throughout them. But the negative is, stopping to go get that med pack is taking time. That's the only real negative to getting a healing item to keep yourself alive to keep murdering things, is it's slowing you down. And a repeat of that level where you don't have to get that health pack, your time's going to be a bit lower.
Yeah.
And then you get to see a little map of, like, all the little paths you ran around and where you killed people and how you got out. And it's one of those games where it's not going to gate your progression by you not being good at it. Like, if you just want to run through each level and technically kill all the people and see the plot through and just keep going, no matter how slowly you complete a level, you get to go to the next level. If you just, like, really collect all the health things as and when you need them, it's not that hard to progress. But there is room for that kind of ceiling of, I know there are people who are going to get really fucking good at this and it's going to be beautiful to watch them play. And even if I'm not at that level, I can enjoy trying to one-up myself once I have a better idea of where all these people are. And, like, you'll be running through a level and go, I could have taken that person out earlier, now I realise they're there. And, like, starting to build in your head the, how could I have done this better, maybe I'll give it another try. Levels are, like, less than 3 or 4 minutes, so it's manageable to go, like, you know, maybe a 3-minute level. Yeah, I could jump back in and try that again. And it's all layered in this, like, very stylish, over-the-top style where anytime you shoot someone, your gun flashes are all slightly neon 2D painted effects over an otherwise 3D world. it feels really good to play even while I suck at it. So yeah, I need to put more time into it, but that's I Am Your Beast.
I Am Your Beast.
I am really intrigued by it.
I'm gonna try and remember that name, because if Zalavan Nelson is, has put out a game, I'm gonna pay attention, because what was it called? El Paso Elsewhere, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not always into the games he puts out. Whether I am or not, I'm always impressed by the ideas. So yeah, that does sound fascinating.
Yeah, it is a game about being hunted by the military and industrial complex and being powerful enough to go do a murder fantasy on them.
Lovely.
While, jumping out the trees and being like, ha-ha, fuckers, I'm throwing a gun at your face and hitting you with a knife. So yeah, I've not had as much time with it as I would like, and I am not as competent at it as other people are going to be. It's pretty cool. I felt pretty powerful playing it. What about you both? Have either of you played anything this week?
There is another big game that came out recently that, is worth talking early. I did also play Astro Bot. I'll talk about that later, because you talked about that last week. But I will get to that, because, oh my god.
It's so good, right?
Right, spoiler warning, put your fingers in your ears, listeners, for 10 seconds, right? When I say so. Because, like you said last week, you can unlock other robots that are dressed as and behave like existing characters.
Yeah.
One of them isn't even a character. Right. Put your fingers in your ears if you don't want spoilers on it now. They've got an anthropomorphized intelligence cube from the game Intelligence Cube. What the fuck?
Yeah, they do.
It's funny because as I was playing, it went through my mind. I was like, what's a really obscure pull? Oh, that one. I wonder if that is a deep cut. I don't know if they do that one. Yeah. And just this morning, I freaked the fuck out. Oh.
Yeah, when I said last week this game plays around with weird deep cuts you wouldn't expect, I wasn't fucking joking.
Yeah. And there's some great ones. Really good. Anyway, I will get to that, because I do feel I should get Space Marine 2 out the way.
Very excited to hear about this.
So yes, Warhammer 40,000, Space Marine 2. I did have it early. I ordered the physical collector's edition ages ago. Well, I say I ordered it and that's how I got it early. It's the physical version, because I'm a consumer whore and I really liked the first Space Marine. I wanted the statue, because Ultramarines are so cool. I did want the statue because it's got Tyranids in it. I like them. Not as much as the Thousand Suns, which is my favourite Warhammer army, but I do like Tyranids. But anyway, that's besides the point. The thing is I got the disc. It was Thursday. I was like, 3 days early. I forgot about that. The trajectory of my day has changed. And then as I was fruitlessly clunking the disc into the side of my digital-only PS5, I remembered that the PS5 those lads sorted me out when there was a shortage was a digital-only one with a no-disc drive. Yeah. Anyway, I've got some free DLC codes if anyone's interested. But let's talk about the game, shall we? Space Marine 2, I don't know why they called it that. I don't know why. Unless there really is marketing wisdom that says if you stick a 2 at the end of something, people are all automatically going to buy it. You could have called this Warhammer 40k anything, and you've already got the brand that people are going to pay attention to, rather than an old THQ published game from 2011 that didn't even sell very well. The reason I say it's strange is because, A, they just hand-waved the presumptuous cliffhanger that was at the end of the first one. It's just, whatever, here are Tyranids, which, to be honest, is the important thing. And also, this ain't Space Marine 1. This is World War Z with Tyranids. This is World War T. And it ain't a bad idea at all. It does feel very different. If either of you played or saw World War Z, it was a game I was hooked on for a while. Saber Interactive used what's called the Swarm engine to make the zombies behave like they did in the World War Z movie. These oceans of them, like crawling over each other, almost like a flood, like a human flood. And they had this gimmick where piles of zombies are crawling up the walls, using each other, and you're shooting at the bottom of the pile to knock them all back down. That's Space Marine 2, but you've got a big fuck-off bolt rifle, and they're big fuck-off Tyranids. And it's pretty awesome. There are many, many, many significant flaws with this game. It's one of those games, and I'm sure we've all got them, that you really like, but when you talk about them, it sounds like you hate them. And the main reason it sounds like you hate them and you have so many criticisms is you do really like it, and there's so much you could see that would make it better and more enjoyable. I mean, obviously not if you're one of those weird sort of, you know, hardcore gamer simps who think you must love a game in its totality or you're betraying your identity. But with this one, I've played the shit out of it. Like, so much since Thursday. But as I've played it, I have encountered so many baffling decisions and oversights. It's a game of 3 portions. We've got the narrative campaign, we've got the co-op based missions, PvE, and we've got the PvP, the multiplayer, the online competitive. The narrative, I wouldn't have predicted that that's the thing I'd play least. I thought I'd be in it more for the story stuff. Well, not necessarily the story stuff, but the predetermined narrative campaign with a sense of build and stuff like that. The main problem is it is, as well as them having a separate co-op section, it's designed for co-op, is the narrative one. And there are certain moments that on your own are not fucking fun at all. No problem, you think. I'll just get some co-op players. The matchmaking, like fucking Redfall, is private only. And there is no need for it. None at all. And a lot of my friends don't play games. Most of my friends are not gamers. And the ones that do game are usually, like, they're the ones that you get that sort of, they have 2, maybe 3 games a year that's their game. And it ain't Space Marine 2. I've barely played it. It's not fun. I'm not having fun. It's fine until I get to a section like, here's 4 things you've got to defend at once while being swarmed. And you're given 2 AI-controlled buddies, and they're fucking useless. They don't kill enemies because there's an execution state, and they just leave that for you, which is great when you're not in the middle of a horde moment where there are hundreds of Tyranids, and you're trying to defend antennae that are being surrounded by gargoyle ones. So that's solo. I've not really wanted to be that into it. To talk about the positives, it is really fun to shoot Tyranids. It is really fun. The combat is as chonky as you'd want it to be for a game with Space Marines in it. One thing I will unequivocally say is a positive are the animations. They are some of the most pleasing animations I've ever seen. They have this thing which, again, it speaks to the weird, nearly incompatible design philosophies they've got going on. For a game that starts as a shooter until it becomes a hack and slash when you're surrounded by them, that's fine. What's weird is once they're all round you and it's all kind of World War Z-ish, it also feels quite a bit like Dynasty Warriors as well. And what they've decided to do is what a lot of games do now, where enemies will have 2 different colour-coded attacks, a blue one and a red one, where blue is the one you can block and parry, and red is the one you've got to dodge. Yeah, in the middle of a giant chaotic hack and slash where there's so much going on and half the screen is red with blood, it's not brilliant. The main problem, because even at the best of times in a game that isn't visually and audio overwhelming, when they do the here's some you dodge, here's some you block, I'm prone to get thrown off by that. My brain just isn't wired for that. But I get on better with it than I do here. And the main thing is the parrying is fine. If it was just that, I think it would be fine. When you throw the dodging in, because the heavy attacks you need to dodge are a lot rarer than the parry ones, and the audio cue for both of them is the same, and it comes ever so slightly before you see the visual color code, I keep parrying. It's force of habit. It sounds the same. So almost every heavy attack hits me because I dodged too late. I think they might need a bigger window for the dodging to account for that, or at least account for me. They should definitely design the entire game according to me and what I need it to do. But it is weird. I said I was going to do positives. It is fun. The World War Z moments are really fucking cool. The animations, like I say. One of the reasons I don't want to be too harsh on the parrying and counterattacks in particular is they're fucking hilarious. They are so fucking hilarious. There's one particular one that you get several, and I've seen them all by now dozens of times, and I'm not sick of them. There's one where you get the cue as the Tyrannid crouches. Before the Tyrannid's feet have even left the ground, your Marine has casually stuck his hand out so that it jumps throat first into his hand. And then he just fucking bodies it. It's so good every time. There are other really cool ones, like if a Tyrannid jumps at you and you're equipped with a chainsword, you might literally cut them off midair. Like they will jump and you'll just swing the chainsword. And there's that moment of resistance as it just carves through them before you finish the swing. Awesome. There are executions as well if you get an enemy glowing red, which again, bit of a weird incompatibility because you can also mark enemies if you're in co-op for other players, and it highlights them in red. So there have been times where this Tyrannid, I'm trying to execute it until I realise, oh shit, it's taking all my hit points away. It's not dead. So they need to change the colour of that. But the executions, really cool. I think they should restore some health, because they've got a rally system like Bloodborne, but if you're in a giant scrum, by the time you need to do that, you ain't getting that health back. Having it in executions would be nice, but the executions, very much like the parries, fucking mint. Really fun. My favourite is the Zoanthrope, which in the Tyrannid army, they're these big psychic ones that sort of help control the horde. They've got little bodies and giant heads, and they're actually quite adorable. But if you execute that, you grab it by its big head, stick your fingers in its face, and then pull the face off of the head, with all the gooey tissue sort of stretching like you've broken a Cadbury's caramel in half, and you're pulling it. And it's, again, I've seen it loads of times. I'm not fucking bored. Great stuff. So the very fundamental gameplay, rock solid stuff. Really like it. It has kept me coming back. We'll do PvP next because of how the co-op uses the classes. So I really liked PvP in Space Marine 1. It was no frills, just shooting people with your gun and hitting them with a chainsword, and this one is similar. And honestly, after Concord, breath of fresh air to have something that feels this old. It really is just again, this is where it does feel very 2010s, because it's just 6 people on either side, mid-sized map. There are 5 classes, or 6, can't remember. You pick a class, you just shoot each other. There are 3 game types: elimination, regular deathmatch, and 2 different capture and hold ones. One of which, multiple territories, one of which are shifting single territory. So basic. And yet, after so many live service shooters, refreshing. Which there's a similar vibe to Astro Bot. Something I've just not seen in a while. And again, after Concord, me being so shit at it because I just could not get with it, I've gotten so good at this. It's not the only reason I'm playing it, but it's a big one. I've gotten so good at it. There are different classes. Not one of them actually truly appeals to me. Fundamentally, they're all the same Space Marine. They have some different armor values, but the HP's the same. There are different weapons, but it's Warhammer. They're all heavy chonga things, with the exception of, like, a couple. And they only have one ability each. And some of them are neat, but the classes just don't stand out very much. You've got, like, the heavy gunner, which is just that. You've got a big gun, and you can throw up a ballistic shield. There's the Vanguard that has a grappling hook that you can shoot into enemies and zip to them to stun them and get in for melee. The one I've been using, just because it's a bog standard Marine, is the Tactical. You shoot a scanner out and it's if you've played any of these older shooters, you know these classes. And it's decent enough, but elements of it do show off. One of the big issues with this game is that Saber's made 3 different games, but they've tried to make one game work for all 3 of them. And this has led to some oversights and some strange balancing disparities. And by far, the biggest oversight for me is you can't switch shoulder when you're fine aiming, when you're like iron sights, for as much as you can do that in a third-person shooter. That's fine when you're fighting hordes of Tyranids in a big open arena. In PvP, being unable to look over the other shoulder can be detrimental. You can't look round the corner of 50% of the walls. And if you are, like, round the corner of a pillar, or you and an enemy are behind a wall, one of you will always have the advantage because they can see you first. And it's little things like that permeate throughout every mode, where it's like, guys, you had to tweak this. You need to tweak this to suit what you're trying to make it do. You can't fail to compromise here. But other than that, multiplayer's fine. I do wish you could make your own Marine, and I do wish the customization wasn't so convoluted and shite. I won't get into details. But, you know, if I'm playing the class with a big shield that can do some healing, when I'm the Chaos side, I don't want to represent Nurgle. I'm a Tzeentch girl, right? Philosophically opposed to Nurgle. And if I'm playing the Tactical Marine, my favourite one, like my favourite of the classes, I don't want to be a Black Legion either, the Ultramarines of Chaos. But you won't shut up about it, even if I change the colours. Oh, the Black Legion, 1,000 hosts strong, all of that. Very annoyed.
You know, this reminds me, my father always used to get, like, really upset whenever he'd be filling out a form that was asking race, and they had Anglo-Saxon listed on it. And he'd be furious, because he'd be like, no, we're Normans. We conquered them. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's exactly like that. But yeah. For the Marine side, Chaos got done dirty. They're literally just... You can repaint them, but they've got no unlocks or cosmetic unlockables, anything like that. They're just the other side to give the Marine side something to shoot when they're the Marine side. The character classes as represented by the Imperials, not only are they tied to a specific legion, in fact, I think they're all supposed to be Ultramarines, no matter what you paint them. They're also named characters, and I find that annoying as well, because if I'm in PvP, I would much rather make my own Marine, and I'd like to give that Marine a class, and I'd also like to keep a persistent paint job for that Marine, no matter what class, rather than having to reapply them manually between every class, which is fucking baffling. And it gets worse when you realise that once you switch from PvP to PvE, they still don't carry over. So you've got to manually apply the paint job twice. And that's just if you use one class in both modes. And there are some other things that don't carry over that I think are going to end up making people ignore one mode or the other. It will probably end up being the co-op missions, which is a shame. But part of this is another kind of result of them not compromising. Because co-op uses the same classes as PvP. So they're all Ultramarines, and they all have named characters, so that they can fit into whatever shreds of narrative are in that. And it's, again, a sort of World War Z-ish thing, where the different characters can have different interactions depending on who you've got. But they're class-based, and another issue with that is, despite their aesthetics being designed purely for PvE, the classes are designed purely for PvP. Now, no class is useless against a swarm of Tyranids, but considering, despite the fact there are shooty ones, most Tyranids like to get up close, the class with a ballistic shield is inherently more situational than, say, the Vanguard, the actual melee-oriented class. And when there are some stages that have a more heavy presence of shootier enemies, then the Vanguard's the one that kind of is less useful. And again, it's just things like that, these oversights, these things where they've just done a one-size-fits-all, but it doesn't fit. It doesn't all fit neatly. That said, matchmaking is public for the co-op missions, so where I've all but abandoned the story, I've been playing the shit out of those. They're good. Having 2 other squad mates who are humans makes plenty of difference. The one thing I do worry about with it is longevity. There's no doubt they will add more missions, but even playing a mission through the first time, I've been like, there's not much variety here. And with the Marines, you can give them different loadouts, but once you're in a mission, until you go to a loadout station, that's pretty much what you've got. You can get some grenades along the way, but your loadout is your loadout. Your skill is your skill. The one thing I think would really fix that up is, in World War Z, there were these moments that before a big horde came, you set up defences. And it was always, to me, so fun. And tense as well, because you want to get it all done in time. But you're also like, there's a lot of fun in strategizing. Like, well, the zombies are probably going to come down here a lot. Let's put some barbed wire down here. Let's set up like a turret or whatever here. That's really cool. And I think that would fit this so well. There's no reason that Space Marines wouldn't want to set up like autoguns and, you know, space barbed wire or whatever it is that passes for normal things over there, where everything's got to have a skull on it. Without those, it just takes a little bit of flavour out of it. And I do think it would benefit a lot from that. But, like I say, it's been fun still.
It sounds super interesting.
Yeah.
What about you, Conrad? Have you been playing anything this week?
I didn't play it this week. I played it the other week and didn't have time, didn't have a lot to say, and I still don't. But I played a game called Leo the Firefighting Cat, which just on title alone sounds like everything for me. You mean to say I can play as a cat, and I can play a game with firefighting mechanics? I'm in. I'm sold. Give it to me. Inject it straight into my veins. And this is a third-person action game with cartoony visuals, and you're a cute little cat, and you run around environments on missions and put out fires and rescue other cats. And there are vehicles that you can hop in and out of to get to places faster. There's a bit of exploration in the environments with collectibles to find while you're doing your thing. And it's all very simple and light. And I realized after about the second or third mission that this was a game for children. This is a game for kids. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It would be probably, I think it would be engaging to a child, but it's just not especially for me. They're introducing more vehicles and elements at a rapid pace, but none of it feels like it's adding actually much to the gameplay or the experience, in a sense that with someone, you know, as someone with decades of games playing, it all just feels very simple. But it made me realize something about, like, I have no context anymore for what a kid's game is. I don't spend time around kids. They aren't in my life. And so it was kind of a shock to me to pick this up and be like, oh, right. This is in no way made for me. It is made for a completely different audience and demographic that I'm not a part of. And I don't know. I think that sometimes we can reflect on that just as a people. Some food for thought, that it's okay if the thing isn't for you. It's for someone. Yeah. Leo the Firefighting Cat.
Leo
it's
the
for kids.
More games designed for kids should have that as the official tagline. Just, it's for kids.
I feel like that would get exploited pretty quickly.
Very quickly. As it came out of my mouth, I was like, yeah, that would go so wrong.
I've got some other stuff, but I can push it for another week. Steph, you had a chance to play Astro Bot.
Yes.
How you been getting on with Astro Bot?
Oh my god. It just makes me smile. Like, it's been I've enjoyed plenty of games, and Gory Cuddly Carnage made me laugh my arse off. But it's been ages since I played a game that just made me smile consistently, where I'm genuinely playing it with a dopey smile on my face. It is, I did a video on Monday, the Jimquisition, about the contrast between what happened with Concord and how Astro Bot's going. And it's just amazing that Sony put them both out, that there's this game that was so focus tested and so trend chasing and a flop. And this came out a critical darling from the sounds of it, selling well, and it's I said earlier with the Space Marine thing, it's refreshing in how old it feels. Now, there's a lot about the game that is contemporary and modern, but the core of it is Banjo-Kazooie and Spyro and all of those mascot platformers. And the demand for those never went away, but like so many things executives wanted to ignore to make money elsewhere, they claimed we got bored of them, that we don't buy them anymore. We fucking do. There are so many colours in this game. Like, just how colourful it is, and how incredible the animations are. Again, it's just been a good week for games, animations, like animation in games. The fact that everything has a little thing it does. You could hit a little spider, which they're all robots. Brilliant. You can hit a little spider and it will have a cute little response. You can hit flowers, cute responses, all of this. It is a game made to be enjoyed first. There's no ulterior motive like with a lot of games now. This is a game designed for all ages to enjoy. Our partner's youngest, the Binksman, he loved it.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Here I am, a 40-year-old wreck, loving it. He's there, a 5-year-old perfect ideal lad, loving it. I think part of it is it really appeals to autistic people, I think, because that's part of what I love is the way it sounds. It's such a good feeling. And the way it feels with the controllers, like 3D rumble stuff, my autistic hands have never been happier. I loved it with the first Astro Bot, and it's even more extra here. And I think one of the things that really indicated to me that this is so autism friendly is Phoenix has been watching me play it a fair bit, and the noises coming out of the controller, they don't mind those noises. And the audio processing is sort of their struggle with autism, and it can be very easy to get sensory overwhelm and like from that kind of thing. And they said, like, I know how this game is well designed because I'm hearing that and I don't mind it at all. Which, considering the speakers on the controller aren't that, they've always got a bit of tinniness. They're not obnoxious at all, and I'm not sick of running from some grass to some tiles to some metal and hearing it change and feeling it change. I fucking love it. I love that the best part of the game isn't even the gameplay. It's unlocking the bots in different costumes and just unlocking their one item from the machine and bopping them to see them do something funny. The moment Psycho Mantis, when I bopped him and he fell off the TV and the TV went dead and he bashed it to get it back, I was sold. Yeah, I banged on too much about Space Marine, so I'm not going to, keep going on. But It's made me so happy. I'm so glad that game's out. One of the best things I've played.
It's just wholesome, charming fun, right?
Absolutely. Wondrous.
What about you, Conrad? You played anything else this week?
Nope, we should just move on to news, or if you've got one you want to toss in.
That's alright. I can save for next week. We can jump on to a couple of newsy bits. Nothing too big this week, but we've got we got a couple of stories this week for PlayStation that are going to ramp up in importance. I think we'll get there. First up, and this is just this has been amusing me this week. You know how no matter when we record Podquisition, big video game news happens like the second after we record. It's always between recording and publishing. That's happening again this week, even though we've recorded on a different day. Because, like, half an hour after we finish recording this, the PS5 Pro is being announced. Now, I say that, despite the fact it hadn't been announced yet, because PlayStation has been doing a really fucking shitty job of not accidentally confirming that fact in advance, and it's been really funny. So there was a leaked image, like, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, of someone saying, hey, I've seen the PS5 Pro, you don't have to believe me, but it looks like a PS5 with a bunch of diagonal lines along the side of the case on it.
Yeah.
Then a couple of days ago, PlayStation uploaded a 30th anniversary of PlayStation image, and there's a bunch of, like, controllers and consoles as grey silhouettes in the background, and one of them, people looked at and went, that sure is a PS5 with diagonal lines along the side of the case for some reason. That looks just like that supposed leaked drawing of the PS5 Pro.
Right.
Then, PlayStation were like, oh, we've got a mysterious hardware announcement coming tomorrow, what could it be? Except, on the PlayStation blog, the version of that announcement video, they forgot to set the title properly, so it was just called PS5 Pro for about half an hour, before they changed it to mystery PlayStation hardware announcement.
They still went with mystery.
Yeah,
That's
it's
adorable.
been fucking... It's funny watching them pretend we don't know it's a PS5 Pro. For anyone listening to this, we know that it's... By the time you hear this, it's been announced. It's expensive PlayStation that maybe do better graphics or whatever.
Yeah.
But we got a couple of other PlayStation stories, and ramping it up this week. You remember Days Gone?
Oh my god, I heard about this story.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember Days Gone, and I remember the last time it was in the news, the director of that game said it reviewed poorly because of all the woke game reviewers.
Yeah. So the director of Days Gone was a guy called John Garvin, who, reminder, there was a bunch of stories after he left, Bend's studio about the fact that allegedly he was let go for having major anger management problems that were repeatedly a problem in the workplace, and that he had to, like, go to anger management classes to not fucking just shout down all of his employees. He's having a bit of an anger management episode about the least important thing in the world. In Astro Bot, there's a little tiny robot dressed up like the main character of Days Gone. And this led the creator of Days Gone to go on, the director of that game to go on a very angry rant. He started tweeting that he is devastated that his character has been reduced to a cartoon shill, in his words. Deacon has been reduced to promoting other games. Well done, Ben Studio, way to protect your legacy.
He does know that Deacon's not real. Like the character of Deacon. He knows that Astro Bot isn't canon to Days Gone. Has anyone told him that? Is he okay?
The thing that amuses me more is, like, the follow-up. One of his like, defenses of why it was okay for him to be so angry was, I see my character being reduced to a cartoon shill, promoting some small game. And I'm like,
oh, fuck off.
Really? Your game was Days Gone. Of the two of them, I think Astro Bot's going to have the longer-lasting legacy.
Yeah, which one are we going to remember a year from... Well, we already know the answer because we don't remember Days Gone.
How dare you use my middling reviewed game to promote the highest reviewed game of the year?
Well, like he's gone on record before. Like, this is how he came to my attention, was he was whining and bitching about game reviews, reviews of Days Gone. Never a good look. And said that, it's because reviewers are woke, which is... It's proof that woke has become such a useless word, because there was nothing woke about it. Like, Days Gone is not anti-woke in any way. No one looked at it and was, like, saying this is, sexist, phobic, racist or anything. It was, I don't want to stop and fix my bike every 30 fucking seconds. There's nothing woke about not wanting to fix your bike every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So the guy's a moron.
It wasn't wokeness that people looked at it and went, didn't PlayStation release a game about an angry person at the end of the world like a year ago? And I kind of feel like I've seen that.
Exactly. Like, it was sort of obsolete. I just can't get over it. Like, it's not Deacon. First of all, Deke isn't real. Second of all, the Deke in Astro Bot is not really Deke. It's a robot cosplaying. Oh my god. What a moron.
Right.
I think part of it might be jealousy. Because he's clearly so bent out of shape about reviews. He's seeing this game. I saw a great response from someone, which was, like, why are you complaining? Deacon's in a good game now. And I think that's part of it. Like, envy that a character he clearly thinks is his, just because he directed it, is being used in a successful game without him getting any credit or acknowledgement. And it's pure envy. Because how could you be mad at Astro Bot? All these other characters are in it. I bet the people at Bend, who, quote-unquote, failed to protect their legacy, I bet they loved it.
Yeah.
How could you not?
So we got one more PlayStation-related story, and I don't know if you've seen this one yet, but I'm sure you're both going to have real opinions about this one. Sony Computer Entertainment Europe ex-president Chris Deering was interviewed on a podcast called My Perfect Console recently, where he was asked about all the layoffs that have been going on across the industry, and particularly the ones that have been impacting PlayStation first-party studios recently. And he gave maybe the most tone-deaf response to industry layoffs I have ever seen from an executive-level person in the industry.
That takes some doing.
That does take some fucking doing, right? So I'll start with his first quote, and this is the headline that's been doing the rounds. I don't think it's the most out of place thing he says, but I don't think it's fair to say that the resulting layoffs have been due to greed. He's very upset that people keep trying to attribute industry layoffs to greed on the part of the executives. He's very upset about that.
Do not talk fairness when you're an executive. How fucking dare you?
And I read a little more of his comments about
We're gonna get there.
Well, specifically with regard to the greed element of it, and sort of points out that when he was in a position of authority, that he claims that he tried to sort of slow acceleration of adding new staff because he knew that the business was cyclical and so forth.
Yeah.
And so what he is kind of saying here is, well, no, it's not greed. It's just utter incompetence and a failure to understand your business. Is that better?
His justification is, no, the problem isn't that the executives are taking too much money, it's that we hired people without thinking about the cyclical nature of the business, and then when it came time to, either let them go or have less money for the executives, we chose to have more money for the executives and get rid of the people, but that's different from greed.
Yeah, that's different from greed, that's selfishness.
Well, see, here's where we're going to get into the other part of his quote, where he starts justifying why that's not greed.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
I think it's probably very painful for the managers, but I don't think that having skill in this area of game dev is going to be a lifetime of poverty or limitation. It's still where the action is, and it's like the pandemic, but now you're going to have to take a few, figure out how to get through it. Drive an Uber or whatever. Go off and find a cheap place to live and go to the beach for a year.
God.
But that's his fucking advice to laid off people. He's like, no, it's not about the executives being greedy. You're gonna have to go work for Uber or find a cheap place to live and go to the beach for a year.
Oh, no, but it doesn't stop there.
No, I know, it doesn't.
Keep going, please.
Yeah,
please.
But keep up with your news and keep up with it, because once you get off the train, it's much harder.
This is...
Fuck you.
This is fucking...
Fuck you.
This is vicious what he's doing.
Right?
You pushed them off the train.
You pushed them off the train and then told them... But the fucking take a year off and live near the beach line is the one that I can't stop thinking about. Because that's such a fucking the level of wealth you have to go, I'll just take a sabbatical year living by the beach.
Yeah, you can pick up part-time work driving an Uber a little bit to supplement it. You'll be fine.
And that's a problem on its own. Like, we're in a position right now where people need multiple jobs to live. Yeah. To be like, oh, just pick up more jobs. Like, A, that makes the problem worse. And B, this is what I fucking have been warning people about. The quote-unquote real jobs. There's going to be so much competition for that when this shit happens, when people can't work their fields.
We still have one more quote from him. We've got one last thing to send him off on.
Yeah.
I presume people were paid some kind of a decent severage package. And by the time that runs out, well, you know, that's life.
Holy fuck, you privileged, pampered cunt.
Right, I wasn't joking when I said this might be the most out-of-touch thing an executive has ever said about layoffs.
I'd go even beyond out of touch, because that's straight up evil.
Right.
That is evil. What a nasty cunt.
Right.
That is so offensive.
That is the most fucking infuriating thing.
And I will agree with him, though. I would still maintain greed's part of it. But I'd never argue that they're incompetent and selfish as well. I'd never challenge that. Fucking, it's so easy for someone who just takes millions of dollars for himself and millions of dollars out of the economy and out of game development because they just hoard that shit to lecture other people on how to manage money and how to get by. You vicious cunts. Really angry.
Yeah. So talking of industry, greed, this one shouldn't surprise anyone, but, Rockstar, developers of Grand Theft Auto, company that makes infinite fucking money.
Yeah.
They reached out to a band called Heaven 17, basically wanting to use their 1983 hit song Temptation in Grand Theft Auto 6, either in a trailer or the game, it's unclear, but they wanted it for GTA 6 purposes. And, the band member who got this contact was like, oh, that's really exciting, this is going to be a really big fucking payday, this is the biggest fucking video game in the world, like, surely this will be a worthwhile payday. The band were offered $7,500 and no royalties.
Oh my god. Rockstar hates royalties.
Yep.
The whole industry hates royalties.
Yeah, that's
true.
I just say that because Rockstar have been in this conversation before.
Right,
Yeah.
well, yes, because they are A, the most successful franchise in history, and B, they have literally screwed over everybody that has ever had any sort of involvement in its audio production.
Yeah.
Yep. Understandably, the Martin Ware from the band has been, understandably a bit pissed off. As he put it, to put it into context, GTA 5 grossed $8.6 billion. But think of the exposure. Go fuck yourself. Mm-hmm. Which I think is a fair response.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is the point that was brought up, it was over 10 years ago now with the voice actors from GTA 5. Oh, no, it was Nico, the guy who played Nico Bellic in GTA 4. Although I think there was some stuff about the other voice actors in 5 getting fucked over too. That was the point. The game I performed in made millions and millions. 5 is, as I've often talked about on the show, said to be the most profitable piece of media of all time. They are rolling in incalculable amounts of money. And to be so tight-fisted, it's genuinely it would be unbelievable if I'd not spent nearly 20 years looking at corporations and their behaviour, but it should be unbelievable. Oh my god.
Right.
This industry.
Well, and this is part of the reason why they don't tell voice actors what project they're working on.
Yep.
Because they don't want them to have the ability to negotiate.
They don't want them to ask for pay relevant
what they're
to
worth.
what the thing will be worth, yeah.
Yeah.
But to end on something less the industry is terrible. Balatro, that real addictive video game that was real addictive.
Yeah.
It's coming to mobile in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
I say this purely because if any of you know someone who plays a lot of Balatro and suddenly 2 weeks from now they fall off the face of the earth, I'm sorry to let you know this is what happened. They've been claimed. There is no escape anymore.
There is no hope. There is only Balatro.
Exactly.
I do wish I wish it sounded like something I could play. Like, we've talked about that before, where I have the dyscalculia thing where I can't do numbers. Because it looks fun.
There's part of me that says I think it would still be worth giving a try, because it's dealing with numbers where, like, no matter how good you are with maths, you're not doing the maths that the game wants to do. It wants you to just sort of vibe out, I think this might work, and just hope that the numbers make sense. It doesn't want you to do the maths.
Like, I do the maths a lot of the time, but that's because I like doing the maths. The maths is fun for me. But it's completely not necessary, because I will look at it and I will compare two results, and either one of them would have been completely successful or unsuccessful, and it doesn't make a difference, you know?
Yeah, it's I've picked a game strategy, I'm just gonna hope it works. I very rarely think about the numbers. As much as it looks like a game that... It looks like the kind of game that would want you to do maths in your head, it is a game where I never do the maths.
Right.
It's more about making connections between things.
Maybe I'll bob it on the Steam Deck. I might give it a try. Because mainly I just like the logo.
I can't guarantee, but I think there is a real possibility you might get on better with it than you fear.
Right. I'll give it a go.
There we go. That's. I think that's all the stuff we got for this week.
That is indeed it, I do believe. We should shunt off because I've been running my mouth. Laura, can you tell people where they can go if they want to hear you running your mouth more, or doing writing, even running your words typing hands?
You can find all the stuff I do at Laura K. Buzz pretty much everywhere. Wherever you happen to look, you'll find stuff. I wrote a piece this past weekend I was real happy with, about the difficulty of being excited about things, and the way that the cycle of be excited about a thing, find out it's terrible, can, like, very shortly after getting excited, can make it hard to get excited about things in future, and just trying to put words to that, and words to what I need to do to try and stay excited about things, and that seems to have gone over really well. I'm glad that was as well received as it was. There'll be a new episode of Control Alt Access this week. Just check out Laura K. Buzz. You'll find all the stuff. What about you, Conrad?
Oh, you can find me at Conrad Zimmerman on Instagram and Blue Sky. You can hang out with me on Twitch at twitch.tv/that Conrad Zimmerman. I'm on Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays. You can buy anti-capitalist propaganda and Jimquisition merchandise at mercenarycreative.com. And everything that I do online gets supported through Patreon at patreon.com/fistshark. And you know who else has a Patreon? Stephanie Sterling.
That is correct. Patreon.com/Jimquisition, which supports this show and, of course, the Jimquisition and the Jimquisition.com. By the time this podcast is up, I will have published my 40k Space Marine 2 review. It's an extensive one, as you might have been able to tell from earlier in this show. And I'm quite pleased with the writing and everything, so do check that out. I also live stream at Twitch, which I've been doing. I'm fully back in the regular swing on that. That's twitch.tv/Jim Sterling. I can't give you a schedule because I cannot operate my life that way. But there we are, twitch.tv/Jim Sterling. I normally, I try and aim for between 8 and 9 p.m. UK time. And my next wrestling date is that big one. It's September 20th, True Grit, Leeds, no disqualifications, Commander Sterling versus Priscilla, Queen of the Ring, for the Pride title. If you can get there, check that out. I will also be at Effie's Big Gay Brunch in Liverpool. That's the weekend of the 28th and the 29th. I think they're still doing the details because they thought I was injured, so they didn't reach out for a booking, but now they do say they want me on the 29th. And possibly the 28th, if they can, if they've still got some space to put me in the Rumble match. More details will come, but pencil those dates in if you're in the Liverpool area and want to come. Other than that, thank you all so much for joining us. We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.